The dinner was nearly empty as Elena wiped down the counter, her stomach twisting with hunger. The tips had been lousy that night, and rent was due tomorrow. She sighed, glancing at the last meal she had packed for herself, a simple sandwich and an apple. Just as she was about to take a bite, the bell above the door jingled. A man stepped inside, his clothes tattered, his face lined with exhaustion. He hesitated at the entrance, eyes scanning the room before landing on her. There was something in his gaze, a quiet desperation that made her pause. Elena knew hunger all too well. She had been in his shoes before, scrounging for scraps, stretching every dollar. Without thinking, she gestured to the seat across from her and pushed the plate toward him. "Go ahead," she said, forcing a small smile. The man hesitated, his pride battling his need. Finally, he sat, his hands shaking as he reached for the food. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena waved it off, but the warmth in his eyes lingered. They ate in silence, the hum of the old jukebox filling the space between them. Elena watched as the man took slow, deliberate bites, savoring each morsel. He looked up occasionally, as if trying to commit her face to memory. "You didn't have to do this," he said after a while, "but you did." She shrugged, brushing off his gratitude. "Everyone needs a little kindness," she replied. He studied her for a long moment before nodding. "I won't forget this." Then, just as quickly as he arrived, he was gone. Elena sat there for a while, staring at the empty plate. She wondered where he would go, what battles he had fought, and if he had anyone waiting for him. Life was unfair. People had everything handed to them while others struggled just to get by. But she refused to become bitter. If sharing her last meal meant someone else went to bed a little less hungry, then it was worth it. With a sigh, she gathered her things, preparing for another sleepless night worrying about bills. As she locked up, the cold night air bit her skin. She pulled her coat tighter, her thoughts lingering on the stranger. She had expected nothing in return, just as she had learned to expect nothing from life. Kindness wasn't about rewards, it was about doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. Little did she know, someone had been watching, and everything was about to change. The morning sun streamed through the thin curtains of Elena's tiny apartment as she groggily stretched. Her stomach growled, reminding her she had skipped dinner. With a resigned sigh, she pulled herself from the creaky mattress and went to the window. Her breath caught in her throat. Parked in front of her run-down building was a sleek black limousine, its polished surface gleaming in the sunlight. A sharply dressed chauffeur stood by the door, scanning the entrance as if waiting for someone. Elena blinked. Sure, she was still half dreaming. People like her didn't get visits from limousines. Her heart pounded as she threw on the cleanest clothes she could find and made her way outside. The chauffeur spotted her instantly, his expression unreadable. "Miss Elena Morales?" he asked in a formal tone. She hesitated before nodding. "I have been instructed to take you to meet someone. Please, step inside." Suspicion flared in her chest. There must be a mistake. I don't know anyone who drives a limo. The man's lips curled into a knowing smile. "He said you might say that. But I assure you, this is no mistake." Elena's instinct screamed at her to walk away, but curiosity rooted her to the spot. Who could possibly be looking for her? Was this a prank, or worse, trap? Yet something about the man's calm demeanor reassured her. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, her fingers grazing the cool leather interior as she slid into the limo. The door shut behind her with a quiet finality. Her pulse thrummed in her ears as the car pulled away, leaving behind the only world she had ever known. The inside of the limousine was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Soft leather seats, crystal clear windows, and the faint scent of expensive cologne. A tray of refreshments sat untouched, but Elena was too anxious to reach for anything. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. The chauffeur's gaze met hers through the rearview mirror. "To meet someone who believes you deserve much more than what life has given you." Her fingers tightened around the armrest. None of this made sense, but something told her she was about to find out. The city blurred past as they drove through streets she had never seen before, lined with mansions instead of broken sidewalks, ones filled with possibility instead of despair. Her mind raced with questions, but no answers came. And then, just as she was beginning to second-guess everything, the limo slowed to a stop in front of a towering estate, its golden gates glistening under the morning sun. "We're here," the chauffeur announced. Elena swallowed hard. Whatever awaited her beyond those gates was bigger than anything she had ever imagined. A butler greeted Elena at the grand entrance, his demeanor polite but reserved. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and towering paintings whispered of wealth beyond her comprehension. Before she could process it all, a voice echoed from the staircase. "Welcome, Miss Morales." Elena turned to see a well-dressed man descending with a confident grace. His silver hair and sharp suit gave him an air of power. "I imagine you have questions," he said, his lips curling into a knowing smile. Elena's throat tightened. "Who are you? And why am I here?" The man gestured for her to sit in an opulent lounge. "My name is Charles Donovan. You showed kindness when you had nothing to give. That is rare." His words sent a chill down her spine. "The man you fed last night was someone I hold dear. He told me about you." Her head spun. He knew you." Charles nodded. "He was once like you, struggling, overlooked, but one act of kindness changed his life, and now he seeks to do the same for another." Elena's pulse quickened. "And you think that person is me?" Charles studied her, eyes gleaming with intent. "I don't think. I know." Elena's heart pounded. "This is too much. I don't know if I can accept it." Charles leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "You don't have to decide now, but opportunities like this don't come often." He handed her a folder. "Inside, you'll find everything you need to change your life. A job, a home, a fresh start. All you have to do is say yes." Elena stared at the folder. This was everything she had ever dreamed of, yet fear gripped her. What if this was a mistake? But then she thought of her empty apartment, the sleepless nights, the kindness she had given without expecting anything in return. Maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. With a deep breath, Elena took the folder and nodded. "I'm ready?" Charles smiled. "Then, welcome to your new life."